Well, welcome back, everybody. Glad to see, well, a lot of people coming back who probably attended last week and are super excited to listen to Dave and Nate talk about the technical details related to IQ Wi-Fi 6. So as a reminder, there are 2 more sessions in this series. Next week will be Troubleshooting 101. And then the week after, we'll be connecting everything through alarm.com and being able to control IQ Wi-Fi 6 and all the cool features that alarm.com brings to this. So we're going to run 4 quick polls, and then we'll hand this off to Dave and Nate. So let's get this going. First one, easy. So when you're installing networks, what networking topology or configuration do you prefer to install in a customer's location? Standalone, parallel, only have network extenders currently, or you do not offer any kind of network solution currently? All right, there is, about a quarter standalone, quarter parallel, a lot of network extenders, and about a third right now not offering any kind of network solution. Well, I believe IQ Wi-Fi 6 will probably change your mind about not offering some kind of network solution. So we're just gonna give everybody just 2 more seconds, and then we'll go to the next one. All right, this is an easy one. True or false? Have you installed IQ Wi-Fi or an IQ Wi-Fi 6 in your house at this point? All right, here we go. It's racing up. So about a quarter, give or take, about a quarter of people have installed an IQ Wi-Fi or an IQ Wi-Fi 6, more than likely an IQ Wi-Fi. So we are very, pardon me?
This might be a good opportunity to remind everybody on the call about the giveaway.
Right, so everybody who attends all 4 sessions in this series, we're going to give away one of 20 sets of IQ Wi-Fi 6. So if you attended this week and last week and this week, you really want to attend next week and the week after. All right, we're going to close that one off. All right, here we go. As an alarm professional, I consider myself to be a network noob, a network pro, a network hacker, or a network guru. Let's see. We've got a lot of people who claim to be pros here. So knowing enough to be dangerous. There we go. Not a lot of hackers in the group, a couple gurus. So a fair amount of noobs. I mean, I'd say 3/4 are between noob and pro. So very, I think this technical session that Dave and Nate are going to put on is going to be very beneficial for those noobs. And here we go, one last, and then we'll pass this off. And you don't have to listen to me talk anymore until the end. All right, so what is your #1 issue when installing a new network? Is it limited product knowledge, kind of user access credentials, just time, cumbersome setup process? All right, a lot of limited product knowledge. Credentials is definitely an issue. It's pretty even between, so limited product knowledge is almost a half of you. And then the other 3 are, pretty well even between user access, time, and cumbersome setup process. Wow, that's gonna be great. All right, I leave this one for 1-2 seconds more. Everybody's voted. All right, closing. All right, gents, off to you.
Thank you, Neil. And thank you everyone for joining today. I know that I am super excited to go over IQ Wi-Fi 6 and talk about what we can do differently with it. And on with me is Nate. Nate, if you'd like to say hello.
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Nathan Anderson. I've been part of the JCI team now for just under 3 years. I'm happy to be here. A little bit about my background. I come from the CEDIA channel. So networking to me is a little more second nature. But yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thanks, Dave.
Yeah. Thanks for being on here. So as Nate alluded to, I'm Dave Simonetti. I am the technical account manager for those states that are listed. I'll give you a quick little synopsis. You may want to take a picture of that slide if you're in that area. That way you have my email, because you will need my email for later on in this presentation. I know I sat listening to those like Jeremy and Kevin for years going, like almost like the Monsters Inc. If you've seen that movie, and they're so awesome. That's kind of I was sitting in the background. And so when I got the opportunity to become part of this team, I can tell you a year into it, I couldn't be happier and I couldn't be more proud of the work that we're doing and this team. They're just a great amount of support is here. So we're going to talk about IQ Wi-Fi 6 today, but I feel like before we talk about, hey, let's get into the meat and potatoes of how to hook it up, I think we've got to do our best effort to talk about some pre-installation keys of success. What does that look like? Well, for the purposes of today, we have two different generations of Wi-Fi. And to make this illustration simple, I'm going to refer to both of them as John. We have Little John, and Little John knows his stuff. You know, he's a hard worker, he's dedicated, but I like to think of him as a rookie. Well, some time went on and Big John entered the space, and Big John was actually the apprentice to Little John, and Big John learned, but then he became like prideful and his head started to swell, and because of that, Big John doesn't talk to Little John. And what am I trying to say through a silly way of saying it? Look, if you've got IQ Wi-Fi and IQ Wi-Fi 6, those two won't talk together. They work independently of each other. Fantastic solutions, but they just don't talk together. So that's the first thing to know. The second thing that we'll want to take a look at is the box. Why are we going through a box, Dave? Because it's important. There are some things that if you're not careful, you'll miss them. And what do I mean by that? Well, in every single box, you have a couple of things. On the left, you have a wall plate, which we'll go over what that means. In the middle, you have the device itself. On the right, you have the transformer. But the thing that I want to pick out today, the thing that's most important to know, is the sticker that's just kind of hanging around loose leaf inside the box. Really important. Dave, why is that sticker important? I'm glad you asked. That sticker is important because it's designed to go on the back side at the bottom of the device that you're installing. It's a really cool sticker. It's more than just for looks. What's cool about it is that if you're out of the box and you don't change anything, you don't change passwords, you don't change network names, then on the left-hand side, that QR code that's there allows you to connect to the network very simply. Now, the right QR code is also beneficial because that can do two different things. And two different things are dependent on whether or not you're following the best practices and whether or not you're connected to the network first. So let's talk about the first way. Let's say that you've already connected to the network that's being broadcasted. Well, when you scan that right QR code, bingo, you're taken to the web GUI or graphic user interface for the overall changing settings of the device itself. That's if you're connected to the broadcasting network already. If you're not connected to the network, then it's really helpful because it lands you at the quick install guide, install manuals, product knowledge for both generations, Big John and Little John. Both generations are right there for you. So if you're saying, well, Dave, I don't want to watch this video inside of a customer's house. How do I get to your quick guide because there's nothing in the box? That's the way, and that's the purpose of those QR codes. They're in every single box. So
yeah, I just wanted to chime in here too and just kind of point out two things with these QR codes. So the first point that I'll make here is, and we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about agents and how to extend a network throughout this presentation, but just keep in mind that the default SSID or network name, it is unique to every IQ Wi-Fi device, and we did that on purpose. So in the event that you wanted to leave, the SSID and the encryption code defaulted, you can do that, and you would have a way with this QR code to connect to that network. Which brings up the other point. If I'm adding an additional agent, any agent that I'm adding to this main unit that we're going to call the controller is going to take on the controller's settings, right? So the user, or excuse me, the SSID, the network name, the encryption code is all going to be the same as the controller. So Yeah, so pardon me for interrupting there, Dave, but I felt like, or at least as you were talking about the QR codes, those were just a couple of things that I was thinking about.
No, thank you. The more you interrupt, the better it is for everybody. So next, we're going to talk about the actual install process. What's that look like? Well, as you learned last week and last episode from Kevin and Pat, you can connect this in two different ways. You can connect it as the sole internet package, for lack of better terms, if your organization can support that. But you can also connect it in parallel to what's already there. So the first thing you have to do, even whenever you want to connect anything to the internet, just did this in somebody's house the other day, you got to find the router. Once you find the router, then you're able to take the supplied Ethernet cable, plug it into the LAN port, an open LAN port on the back of the router, and then you find the WAN port on the Wi-Fi 6 unit, and you plug it into there. Next, you take your power cable and plug it into power. Now, upon plugging it into power, some things are going to happen on the front of the unit. What you're going to begin to see is the green LED on the power side start to flash. And that starts a countdown. The next thing you're going to see is your LAN, or the one right above the little Wi-Fi symbol, start to flash. As that begins to flash, eventually it turns solid green. Then you'll see the LED right above the globe icon begin to flash and eventually go solid green. What happens is that takes about 9 minutes from the time that you powered it up until all three lights turn solid green. Now, we've heard your feedback and it's well deserved, and we've already made some changes to how long that process takes. But listen, when I was in the field, I knew that the only person that was going to get me home at the end of the day was me. So the more efficient I could be, I'm not talking about speed, but I'm talking about efficiency. The more efficient I could do things, the more I could multitask, the better it was. So this is a perfect time to not to eat a sandwich. It's the perfect time to go talk to the customer about something. The perfect time to go unbox other agents. The perfect time to go run a wire. Listen, when I was doing this every day, I knew how long things could take. And I knew, oh, I have this much time. Okay, I can put on some sticky tape on here, things like that. What are we trying to say? We've heard your feedback and we so appreciate it, but also this is a great time to do other things while you're waiting. And then when you go back and you see all the lights are green, then you know, okay, I'm ready to continue. What's continuing look like? Well, we already said you can put additional agents on this network. So let's take this house, for example. Let's say this house is a little bit larger than what it shows here, and you're just not getting the range out of the network as you need to. Well, then just start putting in other agents to expand that coverage. The cool thing is you can actually add up to 7 additional agents to one controller to expand the overall coverage. Now, the thing I will say about this is don't just flood the area with coverage. You can use different apps like the airport utility if you're using an iPhone. There's other things called Fing where you can download that app and you can see how well what the levels are of the overall signal strength. I flooded my house with signals in the beginning, and I'm calling Nate going, hey, this isn't working the way you said it is. And he goes, maybe we should dial down how many you're using. And as soon as I did that, now I'm able to see, oh, the network is performing much better. Nate, would you have anything extra to add to that?
Yeah, no, couple different thoughts here. Agent placement, you kind of brushed upon it when you're talking about flooding, your environment with multiple agents. So yeah, you definitely don't want to put too many of these, too many of them could be a bad thing. You see the image here, we've got good coverage in all corners and areas of the house. So, you might consider placing them towards the edge of or the perimeter of the house, on the inside of the house, to get better connectivity to an outdoor camera or a doorbell, that sort of thing. One of the things that we built in to these agents was some LED feedback, and that really was designed to give you as the installer an idea of how that agent is communicating wirelessly. One thing to note too, these devices, just like our Gen 1, you know, our little John, Big John also supports an Ethernet backhaul. Perfect, to wire these all up with a wired connection, LAN to LAN. So if you've got multiple agents, keep in mind you would need an additional network switch for them to all connect, on that hard line. Maybe you've got a detached situation. Maybe it's a pool house, a mother-in-law apartment. This could work in that environment as long as you've got that physical hardwired connection as well. So, but yeah, we'll get into some of the LED feedback, in a later slide. But yeah, just keep in mind that we do have LED feedback on the WAN LED. If they are connected wirelessly, these agents are connected wirelessly. So you've got a series of blinks there indicating, their network connection as well.
Thank you, Nate. I actually, strangely enough, before we started this, I actually went out in my garage because I know I saw solid, but let me just check. And now that I've learned those LEDs, I'm able to just see that feedback right away and go, no, I'm good. So you can add them. How do you add them? We're going to talk specifically today about the preferred method of WPS, adding them in. So you take your agent, everyone that's not the controller is called an agent, and you plug that sucker into power. As soon as you do that, then you'll start to see again, the green LED will begin to flash and start that countdown of about 2 minutes for it to fully power up. Then you'll see it turn solid green. Once it turns solid green, you'll locate the WPS button on the back of both the controller and the agent. You'll push the controller WPS button for maybe a second, push and release, and then do the same thing on the agent. That will again start the next countdown. And then you'll start to see for the next 7-ish minutes, you'll start to see the LED flash over the LAN side turn solid green, and you'll start to see the WAN side flash and turn solid green. What you're looking for is what's represented in the slide here. Once you see those three become solid green, then you're good to continue. But technically, I think Kevin alluded to this earlier on a different call that we had separately. Once you see the WAN LED stop flashing and return to solid green on your controller, technically you can move on and start adding additional agents. And once that's done, once you got solid green there, you know that it's good and ready to go. Nate, anything to add on that one?
No, you covered it. Yeah, just to emphasize, your feedback is crucial. It's everything to us here at JCI. So yeah, we heard you loud and clear through the beta process, and we've been able to enhance this process a little bit, from what it was, I guess. But yeah, it does still take about 7 minutes, and as your agent is getting its update and getting configured, the controller will actually stop flashing, its LEDs. You're good to start pairing additional agents as well. So agent 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 7 agents. You can use that WPS button while these devices are doing their reboot and coming back online.
Hey guys, can I jump in with a quick question? I thought this was perfect timing. Joe Salzman asked a really poignant question. He says, controller and agent, are these separate products or the same?
Oh, that's a great question. That is a really good question. So it's the same SKU. So each one of these devices is shipped out. Any one of them could be a controller or an agent. So yeah, we don't have a separate SKU for a controller, and we don't have a separate SKU for an agent. So yeah, so hopefully that answers the question, Joel.
Thank you, Joel. And that's a great question. Sometimes you do something for so long, you get so used to it that you forget the little things. So we so appreciate that question. So next, we're going to talk about what separates us. We know that last time we didn't focus on the similarities. We focused on what's different, what sets us apart. And so what sets us apart is you can connect this thing to an IQ panel, in addition to alarm.com. We'll get into that. So what you need to do is you'll open the settings tray, you'll touch settings, And then you'll ignore that message for now. Obviously, you haven't connected it to an internet source yet. You'll go to advanced settings, and then you'll enter your dealer or installer code. Then what you're going to do is you're going to touch Wi-Fi, and then you're going to touch the Wi-Fi of the network that it's broadcasting. How do I know that? We're referring back to best practices. You're going to refer to the sticker or the underside of the unit itself. Once you know what that default network name and password are, you're free to enter that password. Now, the cool thing is, two things. I've noticed in my tenure of using the IQ panel that one thing to pay attention to is the fact that it says obtaining IP address. If you see the panel say obtaining IP address, you know you're good. If you only ever see it say saved, then you know something's been entered incorrectly. So it's really critical, and I've actually done it every time that I've practiced this. I've actually looked at that slide to say, it does say obtaining IP address. Once that happens, the cool thing is, as soon as you add anything that's IQ branded to the panel, to the network, was what I should say, it automatically moves it from the main network to the security partition within the Wi-Fi 6. So that means it has a separate username, separate password. And that way, if the customer changes their password like they commonly do, it doesn't matter. It won't affect it because it's hidden on its own separate area. Now, the other thing that you can do is you can actually go in and you can change different settings from the panel. So you're going to open up the settings tray, touch settings, then you're going to touch advanced settings, enter your dealer or installer code once again. Then you're going to touch installation, devices, Wi-Fi devices, and then you're going to touch the IQ Wi-Fi icon, at which point you're able to select the SSID or network name to access the settings, and you're able to make edits as desired. Quick tip here, if you can tell me what the network name, what game that comes from, and what the object did, that is the password there, I will send you, or we will send you, one of those cool shirts that Nate is wearing. And if you took a picture of my card in the beginning, you have my email address. So the first email that drops into my inbox will get that t-shirt if you can tell me what that network name is from and what the object did that I set as the password. Finally, to get away from the nerdy stuff, hit save to complete. It will go through its process. Now, before we move forward with the last few slides, Nate, is there anything you'd like to add?
I think you covered it pretty well here, Dave. I think you've done an awesome job, by the way. I actually really enjoy jumping on these webinars. You know, I actually learned a little bit today as well. But one thing that I thought through as you were talking about, you know, this panel UI, and, you know, as we're thinking through our product offering, whether it's Little John or Big John, as you've called it early on, you know, if you've got an IQ panel that has participated with, say, a Gen 1 router, you know, that Little John router, and you're upgrading to a Wi-Fi 6 router, you know, we're happy that you're doing that. But one thing to note here is you will want to go in under the dealer settings, and there is an option there where you know, we'd recommend that you unpair the panel from that previous IQ Wi-Fi network. So that would make your life so much easier, you know, because we're seeing some residual effects from that original IQ Wi-Fi network on the panel, if that makes sense. So it's kind of a best, yeah.
So we've talked about how to network it. We've talked about how to learn it in the panel. We've talked about how to adjust settings. Let's talk really briefly about the hardware part of installing. So in the box, as you saw on the left-hand side, there's this back plate. I just actually did this today where I went nuts. I wish I had some way to easily manage wires with a different device. Well, here's a simple device. I actually use this in my garage to just keep it nice and neat. You know, you can install something to the best of your ability and then someone uninstall it or take it out because they don't like the way that it looks. I've had that happen to me before. So this is just a super way to keep everything super clean. Lastly, let's talk about a few quick things. So how do you add this to an alarm.com account? Well, you're going to open up Mobile Tech and you're going to go to the customers tab within Mobile Tech. Go to their account. And once you get to their account, you're going to select equipment. You're going to select add devices, Wi-Fi router. And once you select Wi-Fi router, you're going to say Qolsys Wi-Fi6. And then what you're going to do is locate the MAC address on the bottom. And I think the easiest way is just to take the camera icon, grant it access, and scan the bottom a barcode. So much easier than maybe entering a digit wrong. I don't like entering things because I usually get it wrong. So once you do that, it's going to learn in, you can name it, and the process is going to take a little bit longer. I've sped this up just so that for the sake of time today. But once you get it learned in, bingo, it's there. And you're able to see it. You're able to go to equipment if you wanted to. Once you get to equipment, you're able to scroll the whole way down until you get to access points. Once you push on access points, it's right there. I like to say this about alarm.com. It's kind of like Lord of the Rings, but it's one app to rule them all. So that's what makes the beauty of this. As we heard last week, JCI, Johnson Controls, is supporting this product, and alarm.com is supporting it and backing it as well. Speaking of alarm.com, here's a brief snapshot of what the customer app is going to look like. And through the customer app, as we learned before, you're able to manage Wi-Fi profiles, view Wi-Fi device list, pause Wi-Fi, and do other things with the guest network. And obviously, it's available in any app store. The other cool thing is we've actually developed our own app, and this app is critical to different things. You can control different things as well. You can perform a speed test, check network settings, pause devices, access the network. And because of your feedback, because there's other things that we know we want to adjust, there's much more being built into future releases. Why'd you develop the app? Good question. It's for those customers who are, keyword, not yet alarm.com customers. Finally, as we move to our last slide, and we so appreciate you being on here and your patience, we're going to go through the quick troubleshooting LEDs. These are all available on the quick guide, which is found on the QR code on the right-hand side when you scan it when you're not connected to the network. So power LED, off means there's no power. Solidly on means that it powers on. If you see that it's flashing green, it actually means that it's booting up, or maybe there's a firmware update taking place. If you see that it's solid red, it means there's a critical fault detected. What that generally means is something's really wrong. Nate, is there anything that you want to add to that very briefly?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. Other than, you may see a red LED. Actually, you will see a red LED if you're going to factory default this device. So like most other network appliances, a factory reset's just done by pressing and holding in that reset button for about 15 seconds.
Perfect. Thank you.
Well, good, guys. Then, all right, we got a couple questions though. Don't kill our time here. Dave, you mentioned a couple times an app that tells you if you have enough or too much Wi-Fi coverage. What was the name of the app?
The app was Thing, or the airport utility for Apple devices.
Cool. What else do we have? Is there a PoE version, Nate?
No, that actually is a great question. So we hear you loud and clear, and we're already working on our next hardware generation, which will support PoE. Like anything here, though, we do have some recommendations if that is something that you need. There are some third-party products available on the market that will allow you to take a PoE feed into it looks kind of like a little power supply, and then split out the power and network connection. If you want more information on that, feel free to just send us a PM, and we can get you some additional information.
Yep, sounds good. Is this a router or just a WAP? I know the answer.
Yeah, it's a router. It's a full-on router.
And then one last question before we let everybody go, and hopefully everybody comes back next week. Are you able to open ports from alarm.com for this?
Yes, that was something that's, if it's important to you, it's important to us. So again, taking that critical feedback through voice of the customer here at JCI, definitely made that available.
Sounds good. All right. Well, we will stick to our time limit as we always do. So there is an after workshop survey. Please give us some feedback on how you think Dave and Nate did, and anything you want to see down the road. And we will hopefully see everybody next week for Networking 101. Thanks again, Dave, Nate. Awesome job. And we'll see everybody next week.
Thanks, Neil. Thanks, Dave. See you guys.
Thanks. See ya.